Feeling too tired for the weekend. That's the subject of today. Well, it's going to be a little deeper than that, but maybe that is so. Maybe you are feeling a little too tired and too deflated after a whole week of working in your job, that now the weekend is there. You're actually, not... you're looking forward to the weekend, but not if you would have any obligations or any things that you would have to do, because that's what you would try to get away from, yes? And what I want to get into today is... Why do we do that deal that is our life? Why do we settle for that? And why does it keep us in that place where, the reason I want to touch on this is, of course, that it's not so much in digging into the reason why, but when we understand why, I think it also helps us to find out what is driving us and why we're not taking other chances or other opportunities and trying other things out in our life. So I think it's important, because these same reasons why, if you dig to them, then some of the power of that story can be taken away when you know the reasons. And the other thing is, when you know what you need, what your needs are, then you may find other ways of satisfying those needs and still being adventurous in trying new things out in your life. So what it is, I think, is that we're really in a situation where it's so easy for a human being to be enticed. That's what it is, according to me, to be enticed into a situation where, because we feel a lot of us at some point in our lives or in a moment, we will feel that we are somewhat inadequate, that we're not quite enough. Even though we may seem self-assured and all the rest of it, but somehow not feeling that we're quite adequate and that we're not enough. And that's why, as a person, it's great if we can feel that we're part of something bigger, something else that is bigger than us, that goes beyond us. And also when we see that, in spite of all our inadequacies and our deficiencies, we're still accepted into an organization, by a company, in a role, by a boss, etc., etc. And you can imagine how that helps us to feel a bit more significance in spite of the inadequacies and deficiencies that we may ourselves feel. And that what we feel ourselves is, of course, our old story. So we keep attached to that old story, that keeps us in that place, because that's what we feel. So that's why it's so easy to and compelling for a human being to be enticed into a story of landing a job and then feeling that you're part of a bigger organization, company, and a bigger purpose, etc. And then you feel better, you feel the significance, recognition, and that kind of satisfies one of your human needs. I would invite you to also look up the Tony Robbins video on the 6 human needs on this subject. So now, what with that old story? The old story is something that we keep telling ourselves, and it's like a parrot or a monkey on your shoulder that keeps telling you, what drives you and what you should be mindful of, and anything new you should be cautious with, because of course you haven't got the experience, you don't know what the outcome will be of trying something new. And that old story, that is something that we internalize. We don't wear this on our sleeve. We don't go telling others and say, look how lack of self-esteem I have, or insecurities I feel, etc., etc. In fact, we're trying to hide this as much as possible, and that becomes a mechanism of ours, that everything we do in life is then kind of with that program in the back of our head running, but not wanting to show that to others. So that is how we run our lives. Now, if we were to make jokes around that, if we would actually go into the office and say to our boss, listen, I'm totally inadequate. I'm not really fully capable and all the rest. And I find it so great that you've still hired me. But do know this, that I actually hate my job, and it's quite nice that you pay me. But 85% of the time I'm sitting here, I'm just wondering about other things, really, and dreaming about other things. You would think that is impossible to do, and if both would laugh their heads off in that office where that true story is being told. My point is with this: if you would do this, then you would actually find that you relax around your old story. What I mean is you start to give that space, you start to give that acceptance within you that old story is what you've been running on and what's been driving you, and you give that space, and then it can be released. And what happens with that release is that you then don't need to run away from it and say, okay, now I need to like abandon everything and quit everything and run away from everything. No, that's not my point. The point is that when you release that old story, you will find it makes space available and room available for new things to arrive. It makes space available for new ideas to come, and for also blatantly looking at those things that kept you in place, that held so much power over you, that effectively they're not so powerful as you may think or as you were thinking before that they are. So as an exercise, I would invite you to go to Tony Robbins' The 6 Human Needs and watch that video, and kind of, take a page, and on the top of the page write, I am in this job because I need to pay bills, and that's fine. And then go below that and write, I don't know, 20 or 100 more reasons why you are effectively in that job, after you've looked at that video of Tony Robbins and understanding the 6 human needs, because then you will understand what drives you. You can also then find out how you can satisfy some of these needs that you do have, that you want to see respected. But on the other hand, you can also find that you can find some release around some things that had too much power over you for too long a time. And that's why I want to go into the reason of why these things are driving, because that makes space for you to start considering, like in my online business is working on a new business in a new territory, unknown, lots of learning skills, lots of trying out. But you'll find that you'll be more inclined towards considering such a possibility and stepping into something new when you've released that old story from you, your own old story, and you feel that it has less power over you. That gives you room for a new story, for new influences, for other people that you might be noticing what they're saying and what they're doing that you weren't paying so much attention to, because you were only often paying attention to the things that are part of your old story, because these are the things you focused on, these were the things you see. That's what I wanted to share with you today. So give that space, have it released, look at the reasons why, and then look again how that old story can be shed and how you can enter a new story and try a new venture, a new cause that you want to pursue. Be gentle. You don't need to quit everything overnight and stop and make rash decisions, but kind of move towards that after the release you feel, and finding more of things that really can become part of a new story. And it feels so great when you can make your own story rather than just accepting a story and that's been driving you for such a long time, and then just keep going with it and keep feeding that. That's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you.